Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today's video is going to be super different to my normal beauty makeup videos. So I'm sorry if you feel that this is a departure and you don't understand or you're not interested in this type of video. I totally understand that, and that is absolutely fine for you to exit the video. I want to talk about my reasons for making this video just briefly, because I don't know if people are going to feel like I shouldn't have made this video. I don't know. I can only go off my own feeling. And sorry, I've got a strepsil. I've got a terrible cough still. So sorry about that. So I've thought long and hard about this since the news about Caroline broke on Saturday. Today is Monday that I'm filming this. And since I heard the news of Caroline's passing, I've really struggled with it. It's really affected me. I felt it very deeply, and I know I've said on here before that I am a real empath. That's a huge part of my personality. It's something that affects me day to day. I feel everything very deeply, especially like loss and grief and things like that. Even if they aren't necessarily my own or people that I know personally or close to me, I do feel that loss a lot. And in this case, it's really affected me. I've been thinking about it all day, all night since I learned of what happened to Caroline, and I know that I'm not alone in that, and I know I've seen a lot of that everywhere, you know, whether it be celebrities who didn't have a personal relationship with Caroline, or my friends, people I know on Facebook, or just strangers that I've seen echoing the way that I feel, and just finding this really, really hard to process, and feeling a lot of feelings about it, and having a lot of thoughts about it. And I really feel that coming on here today, you know, sitting down filming and just talking about lipsticks or mascara, I just didn't have it in me to do. I feel very much like I need to talk about this. I feel like we need to talk about this. I feel that although my platform here is super small, it is a platform. I'm a mother of young children who unfortunately are going to grow up in this world where social media and media in general is the world. It is everything and everywhere, especially for young people, and that terrifies me. Obviously I work with young people who, again, I've seen the impact of social media on, particularly as a lot of the young people that I've worked with are in the public eye and have high profiles. I've seen that, you know, suicide rates skyrocketing, a lot attributed to social media. And I also work, a lot of, you know, what I do in my day job is to do with mental health and well-being. So for all of these reasons, this feels like such an important topic to me, and something that I feel very passionate about. I feel like I have stuff to say, and therefore the fear of doing so, or whether I'm the right person, or whether it's appropriate, I don't feel like that should stop me. And I'm pushing myself, although I feel afraid of talking about this. It's outside of my comfort zone. I'm nervous about it. I'm sure I'm going to get comments that are going to be not what I want to see. But that's, again, not a reason to be silent about it. I feel like when we have something to say and we want to speak up, and we feel strongly about something being wrong, we have to use the voice that we have. So that's what I'm doing. So I hope you can understand that. I just want to explain, for those of you, I know at least half of my audience is actually from the US, and I know a lot of you are not from the UK as well. So I just want to explain to you guys, if you don't know who Caroline was, if you're not familiar with her, and you don't know any of the situation, I'm going to briefly explain what I can. So Caroline Flack was a TV presenter here in the UK. She was 40 years old. I feel almost like I've sort of grown up with her. as a friend. Like she's very much that, her personality, the shows she's worked on, the way she is, you know, that bubbly, larger than life, fills a room, light energy, personality, kindness, support, loving, friendly, everybody's best mate character. That's what she represented to me. You know, she started off as a children's presenter, and then she was working, her big break was like working on the Extra Factor, which is like the side show for the X Factor, which I know a lot of countries have that show. She briefly presented the main show on X Factor, but her big break, the thing she's most known for, is presenting Love Island, which I know again is a big show worldwide, and I know lots of people in America have seen the UK version, so that's where you'll know her from if you aren't UK based, is that she was the Love Island presenter. She's also been in the press a lot prior to the last year or so, because she had a colourful, shall we say, dating history. She's dated lots of big celebrities. The one that was most talked about was Harry Styles, because there was a huge age gap between them. She seemed to be very unlucky in love, and that was very much, she was in the press a lot for being unlucky in love and not, you know, finding the one, which is why she said that she loved presenting and working on Love Island, because that's what it was all about, love, and she loved love. She certainly was someone who was incredibly supportive of the people that she worked on that show or who were on that show. I've seen her countless times defending, you know, Love Island cast members on Twitter and standing up for them and standing up for mental health and against trolls and against bullying. She was a huge vocal advocate for kindness. I know the irony that she posted this to her Instagram has been pointed out this week, because yeah, that's something that obviously was really mattered to her. She's obviously someone who struggled with her mental health, and was really open about that, and the struggle of talking about that and asking for help, which obviously now is incredibly sad. I don't want to focus too much or talk too much about her legal issues at the end of last year. However, for the sake of the rest of what's happened here, it's pretty important, or it's very relevant, and I feel like to just completely ignore it and not mention it whatsoever is also not right, because it clearly has relevance here and is clearly a large part of what's happened, but at the same time I don't want to go down the road of discussing that too much, because she's not here anymore. She's not here to defend herself. We will never know the truth, the full story of what happened there. You know, she never got the chance to speak in court. She was not allowed to talk about the court case or give her side of the story. So I now feel it's inappropriate really to speculate further on what happened there, and it's pretty senseless, to me at least, to do so. I just want to clarify, it's not because I want to sweep that under the rug that I don't think it's important. I don't think domestic violence, whether it be from a woman or a man, is not appalling and needs to be spoken about. I just feel that given that nobody other than those two people have really any idea what happened and why that day, and the two people who do know have both vehemently denied the story that we've maybe been fed in the press as being the truth, or really what happened, or the full story of that. And we also know that Caroline was suffering from serious mental health issues. But yeah, I just don't want to sort of go down that road right now. To me, that's not fair and it's not appropriate, given that she's no longer here. However, just to touch on what happened for those who don't know, Caroline was involved in a domestic incident where police were called at the end of last year to her home address, where she was involved in an altercation with her boyfriend. He was taken to hospital but really released like fairly quickly. Says that he was not hurt, but obviously he was taken to hospital. Caroline was arrested and she was awaiting the trial for that allegation. I don't know, sorry if I'm getting the jargon wrong, but she was awaiting the court case, which was due to start in 2 or 3 weeks, I believe. From the moment that happened, the press just ripped her to pieces. Instantly, her boyfriend defended her and said, this isn't what's, the truth, this isn't the right story, this is just, a domestic argument between partners that got out of control. I think he said he called the police because she was also hurt, or was, he was worried she was going to hurt herself. Again, we just don't know. We don't know what happened. It was obviously an ugly event. A lot of misinformation, I know, has been printed in the papers, sorry. The main thing I want to focus on here is that she was absolutely dragged to filth in the papers based on what was a very unconfirmed reports, disputed reports. She was not allowed to defend herself. She wasn't allowed to talk about it at all. She was then attacked from every which angle. Every single headline, every single front page, every single paper, every single news outlet, social media just went for this woman. And I understand it's a very serious, very appalling situation, domestic abuse. I understand people feeling incredibly strongly about it. And I also understand that advocates and groups who want to give a voice to men who suffer from domestic violence really saw this as an opportunity to hold up a woman and say, this is what domestic abuse looks like. Because I think it's one of these things where people feel that the face of domestic abuse is always a man. It's always that the men who hit their wives or their girlfriends or their partners, and it's very rare that there's an example of a woman, and a lot of the time it's because men don't speak up. Men are ashamed to say that their other half is abusive towards them, or maybe a lot of these cases go unreported. So that also, I know she got a huge amount of attack from Fathers for Justice, which has come to light this week, and I don't think that was necessarily malicious intent to ruin her life, but I imagine that it was seen as an opportunity to present a different face to that, to those words, I guess. So she was then incredibly hounded. Paparazzi everywhere she went were taking photos of her, trying to get terrible photos of her. Memes were made, even a Valentine's Day card was made with her face on it. Obviously she was trolled on every social media outlet going. She then announced that she would be stepping down from her Love Island presenting role, which, she was very vocal, was her whole life, her whole world was that job. It meant absolutely everything to her. It was everything. I don't know, can't speculate again if she really did step down or she was asked to do so, or if she was allowed to take that step before, instead of being fired publicly. She says that she would step down from this extra winter season of Love Island, and that hopefully she would be back in the summer, but who really knows, whether that is the truth or whether she was asked to do that. We don't know. But we do know that she would have been deeply affected by that. She also, during this entire time, over Christmas, Valentine's Day, those last couple of months this case has been ongoing, she was barred from seeing or speaking to her partner. I know, again, the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, has been really dragged to filth for taking those steps, and for prosecuting at all, given that her boyfriend did not want to press charges. But I do understand that, because obviously in a lot of domestic abuse cases, the partner who may have initially called the police, or someone else, a neighbour, has called the police because they're concerned, doesn't want to press charges because they're scared, because they aren't ready to leave that person, because they're afraid for their safety. This person knows where they live, they may get off and then come for them, and obviously people get scared, change their minds. Maybe they initially wanted to press charges, and the CPS are taking those steps as a general, not in specific relation to this case, as a general rule, that they will prosecute regardless of whether the partner, the alleged victim, wants to proceed with the charges, in order to protect the victim or the alleged victim. So I do understand that, you know, they can't make exceptions. I'm sure it's very common for the partner to say, oh, they didn't do anything, or to take back the allegations. And I'm sure, so I understand why the CPS was proceeding with the case. I think that's, you know, for the sake of where there's genuine cases, whether this was one of those or not, that's probably the best course of action. Of course, we understand that. So on Saturday, we know that Caroline sadly took her own life at her home. I guess as far as I know, there was no note left. One of Caroline's best friends was actually staying with her. She was concerned about her. We now know that an ambulance actually went to the address the day before, presumably concerned for her health, whether it was a wellness check or whether she had already tried to harm herself or do something, or maybe just to check on her well-being. Obviously, we know that her friend was there and very concerned about her. Her friend then briefly left their address to go to the shops, and during that time Caroline took her life and locked her friend out of the house. And by the time they were able to gain entry and the ambulance arrived, she had already passed away. It's just incredibly sad, and I think for me, the purpose of making this video, I just really want to talk about how we stop this happening again. And it's happened so many times that whether it's because people who, you know, are going through a hard time, maybe people who already suffer from mental health issues, and then it's just all over the media, all over social media, and these are people who maybe just were never going to be able to handle that. Maybe they are mega strong people, but I don't know how strong you have to be really to tolerate that level of, you know, attack. For me, something that's come out of this is, as soon as the news broke, it was so shocking. I felt so shocked. I felt sick when I read that she had passed. And I honestly didn't believe it at first. I thought it's going to come out that this isn't true. But it was very quickly confirmed that it was sadly true. There was just the most incredible outpouring of grief and love and support, and so many, every person who's ever met Caroline just saying, you know, holding her up as the most wonderful friend, the warmest, most loving, kind, caring, thoughtful person you could imagine. That's all I've seen. Obviously I haven't met her, but every single person who's ever met her seems to say these same wonderful things about her now that she's passed. And it just strikes me as so sad that there was such silence until she died. Now, that's not to pass blame on these people who obviously knew her, and I know that that's not 100% of people. However, as far as I saw, there was really zero support or kind words or like public backing of Caroline while she was here, while she was going through this terrible time that I know some people feel, you know, well, it's her own doing. But again, we don't know. We don't really know what she did, if anything. We don't know why she did it. Not saying that there's a reason to abuse your partner, but I'm saying that there's mental health issues there. I'm not saying she was a perfect person. I'm saying she was very likely troubled, very troubled in a relationship that was very possibly unhealthy. Again, I don't know that. What I'm saying is, if that person was our friend, our loved one, someone we cared about before that incident, we would never have just thrown them away and distanced ourselves and said, well, you're on your own now. You know, I want nothing to do with you if you've had a huge row that's potentially turned violent with your partner. I'd like to think most of us, if that was our loved one or our friend that we had a relationship with and we believed in, if they told us that wasn't true, we'd believe them, we'd support them, we'd defend them. If it was true, I believe that we would, you know, make it clear that it's not acceptable, it's not okay. You need to change, you need to make this right, you need to work on yourself, whether you need to sign up for anger management, you need therapy, you need to end that relationship, whatever it is, we would support them maybe in a different way, because yeah, sure, we get mad with our loved ones when they fuck up, we do, but we don't just throw them away. We don't pretend we don't know them, because in those times where we've really messed up and done something awful, aren't those the times we need each other the most? And really from that time, all I ever saw was hate and dragging and silence. I didn't see a single person say, I know her, and if this is true, there's more to it. Or saying, and just anything in support of her whatsoever, even, admitting that you had anything to do with her. I saw nothing. And again, like I said, it's not to sort of say that that's their fault, or that or to call anyone out that, that did distance themselves, because ultimately that it's because of fear. Celebrities, they don't want to get involved. Something like this happens and they all just distance themselves because you don't want to be seen to be backing someone who's in trouble or who's done something terrible. You want to immediately distance yourself, because otherwise you get taken down too, and that's what's happening now. I've seen so many messages and tweets from people who are now attacking somebody new, and in the same sentence condemning the attacks that were made against Caroline, condemning somebody else, whether that be her ex, whether that be a journalist who reported on her, whether that be someone who's spoken about her in the past, whether that be her current partner who's just lost his girlfriend to suicide. And I think, God, do you not see the irony of this? That, potentially this woman has seen the only way out of this as taking her own life because of the hate and the attacks and the pressure and the stress and feeling so alone and like there's just no way out, that we're now doing this to somebody else. Where does it end? Who's next? If one of the journalists who'd reported on the court case now took his life, who would we go after next? Who's next? When does it end? The irony of some of the messages that I've seen and the outpouring of abuse and hate and death threats towards other people while condemning them for doing it to another human. It's laughable, really, if it wasn't so sad. The main thing I wanted to do today is to talk about how we can support a change, how we can affect a change to what we're seeing. I feel like without thinking about that and without taking action on that, this is all for nothing. I don't think that the answer is cancelling Love Island. I just want to say, I see a lot of people focusing on that, and I think that that's such a waste of energy that could be better placed somewhere else. And I realise this is the third suicide that's in some way linked to that show. But obviously Caroline's death really wasn't linked to Love Island show. She wasn't actually working on it at the time. I know obviously you could say that her not being allowed to present or choosing to not present this season may have contributed to that. But obviously there was a lot more going on here, and I think ultimately Love Island itself is a reality show, and maybe there's something about reality shows in general, and how we assess people and their psychological strength and their support systems before we allow them to be on a show like that, how we support them afterwards. I know I've seen lots of Love Island cast members saying how well they're supported during and after that show. So I don't know really that we can continue to blame the show for these deaths. I think for me, we just have to look at the press and social media. I know I've seen lots of people saying that we need to stop buying tabloids like The Sun. I think a lot of people don't anyway, but I think a lot of people do have the apps on their phone. I think we should delete the apps. I think we should stop following them. I think we should not interact with the tabloids who do this to people in any way. Don't give them a voice, don't give them money, don't watch adverts that are placed on their apps, or, you know, interact, even if it's to comment, you know, negatively towards what they're doing. It's interaction, and it helps the posts be seen. I think we can all, you know, agree that that's a step that we can take. I think being the change that we want to see is always the most powerful thing that we can do. Speaking about these things, I think it's super important, like we are now. I think being positive, kind, supportive, uplifting people and being that vocally drowns out as much as possible the people doing the opposite. I think that's really powerful. There is a petition that's been started for Caroline's Law, which I think is really important. When I first saw that, I sort of thought, my initial reaction to seeing this Caroline's Law being tweeted about was like, oh, it's never gonna, you know, we're never going to stop the press reporting on the news. That's obviously their right to do that. But actually, if you feel that way, I would encourage you to look at the petition itself, which I will link in the description box, because it's actually very sensible and I feel very achievable what they're asking for. So this is a petition, it's on change.org. I think it was started by Stephanie Davis. Yes, it was. So she is someone who herself has experienced the press harassment, I guess you would say. I think actually the points and the laws that they're asking to be put in place are achievable, and I think they're sensible. And I'll read them to you now. So the petition that we're asking to be taken to Parliament is to put the following laws in place in Caroline's name. So releasing information that there is no evidence for and is therefore false. Printing source quotes from anyone or an unreliable source. Invading privacy and sharing private information that is detrimental to the celebrity, their mental health and those around them. Paparazzi taking and printing images without permission. I think that's probably the one where I feel it may be unrealistic. Would it be great? Yes, but I think that's going to be tough to pass. Releasing an individual's private medical or health related information or their sexual orientation. Releasing articles about leaked explicit photos, videos and revenge porn. Stricter legal boundaries regarding unwanted trespassing nearby the property where individuals reside or are visiting. So again, obviously I know people will feel differently about this, but to me those are very achievable things. We know that the press can exhibit control over those things because we see it with regards to the royal family. We know in the UK that the royal family is like untouchable as far as the press. If there's something that they don't want to go into the press, it won't. So we know that that can happen. And certainly all those laws are very well applied pretty much to the royal family. And so I feel it would be fairly acceptable and easily passed to apply them to everybody. I think when you read those, a lot of these things, you know, things like revenge porn, releasing information, printing facts or information presented as a fact when it is not and it's actually false. All these things are things that if you were not a celebrity would be illegal, and probably are illegal. They're just not actually controlled when it comes to the press. Yeah, so I think there's just a lot that can be changed here, and I think the first step is to have this debated in Parliament. I think now people have had such a strong reaction to Caroline taking her own life that maybe now is the time to change. That petition already has 225,000 signatures at the time I'm posting this, or the time, sorry, I'm recording this, and it has to get to 300,000 to be debated in Parliament, I believe. And I'm 100% confident it will. get there very quickly. And I think that is a step that we can take and really support that in moving forwards, because this can very quickly affect someone that we know, someone that we care about, and it's just happened so many times now that it has to stop. Something has to change. So that is really all I have to say and all I want to say and talk about this subject. Thank you for watching the video. I know it's very different to what I normally do, and I hope that the sentiment has come across. Yeah, I feel like this, it has to be spoken about, and I think it matters, and it certainly matters to me. If it doesn't matter to you, you didn't have to watch the video, but yeah, it does matter to a lot of people, and I think you know, as many of us as possible should be giving a voice to those who no longer have one. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.